Welcome to the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Happy Thursday. I'm Jay Zawaski with Greg Boysen and Mario Tirabassi. We are here in our West Loop studios. A lot to get to today. At 3 o'clock, we're going to talk to Craig Morgan of PHNX Coyotes. He is the absolute authority on all things Coyotes, and they are tomorrow's opponent. And I guess you'd say contenders in the Tankathon, but probably a little bit better than people expected.
Yeah, but they're doing a poor job of staying in the tank standings.
Yeah, they screwed that up, too.
Yeah, they kind of suck at sucking.
We had to kick them out of the poo-poo gang.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, there's still time. It's only January.
More importantly and more pressingly, we have an update on Patrick Kane's health, and later we're going to hear from Blackhawks head coach Luke Richardson, who had some really insightful stuff on prospect development as it pertains to Reichel and just sort of in general as well. But let's start with the biggest story, fellas. Patrick Kane missed practice today as expected, but they called it a maintenance day. Luke Richardson said that Kane was working out off the ice, and they'll see how he responds later today. But it sounds like there's a pretty decent chance that he plays tomorrow night against Phoenix.
Yeah.
Arizona, sorry.
Yeah, it seems like, whatever is ailing him with his leg, it seems like it's probably just like any normal person would take a couple of days off from not running or working out or whatever, and then they'd be fine. But he's a professional athlete, hockey player, is playing hockey all the time during the season. So yeah, it just kind of needed maybe a lighter day, and I would be surprised if he doesn't play tomorrow. I think he's the kind of guy who, to play the game on Tuesday, already kind of having to deal with something. I would be surprised if he didn't give it a go on tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have a better idea tomorrow morning at morning skate. It sounds like he's gonna give it a shot and see how he feels. Here's a reason why he probably wants to play tomorrow. This is from our buddy Craig Morgan. That in 45 career games versus Arizona, Patrick Kane has 17 goals and 56 points. Yeah. So for a guy that loves to put points on the board and has been struggling to put points on the board this year, sees that game on the calendar, he's going to probably do his best to get out there. So I will echo Jay and say I will be surprised if he doesn't play tomorrow. And if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. It is what it is. The good news is it doesn't sound like it's anything serious. It's just going to be one of those things that's probably going to be bugging him for the rest of the season.
Hopefully not, but yeah, if there's a player on this roster that you are content giving a night off if they need it, it is Patrick Kane, because you need him healthy for March 3rd.
Yes, you do. That's the biggest worry when you start dealing with injuries, and you're like, don't just like, he may ultimately decide I don't want to be traded, which he earned that right. But for him to not even have that, like, if God forbid him or Taves get hurt to where they're not even going to be healthy enough to trade, then you're just like, wow, that's a completely different story right there than if they decide they don't want to be traded. Right. But the cool thing was that Luke Richardson confirmed no matter who's available, who's not available. Of course, Entwistle, Carr on IR. Tyler Johnson was back practicing. He had a stomach issue, a stomach bug, compared to where everybody else is kind of more your traditional flu-like symptoms. Andreas Athanasiou was not there today. He's the latest to get the bug, not the stomach bug, but the other bug. But Luke Richardson said no matter who's available, both Lukas Reichel and Brent Seney are playing tomorrow regardless. So that's good.
Couldn't really give us any kind of lineup decision because not having Patrick Kane and Andreas Athanasiou available today, you don't even get a good look at where guys could slot in. So we'll see. But he did mention with Reichel that this was going to be a bigger opportunity to play in the top 6, which it should be.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. With or without Kane,
Yeah.
And we saw him working on the right side of the power play. There wasn't a lot of even strength work today. A lot of the drills were, 2 forwards and a D against 2 defensemen. A lot of sort of small space drills, battling kind of drills today.
Yeah.
And power play a little bit. So I couldn't glean too much from what the line combos could be. He also mentioned Philip Kurashev as a guy who might be bouncing up and down tomorrow, depending on, again, who's healthy and who's available. With Seney, I'd never seen him in person before. he is a diminutive person.
He's not a big guy.
He is real small, and I don't doubt that he can handle like a third line role. But I don't know. I mean,
he's like Colin Blackwell.
I was very surprised by how small he was.
Well, that's how you can be second in the AHL in scoring and not get many sniffs at the NHL.
Yeah, right.
Because it's that size. If he was 3 inches taller, he'd probably have been in the NHL for the last 4 years.
Could be, yeah.
I mean, he played, I think it was 51 games with the Devils, who drafted him in the 2018-19 season, and had 5 or 6 goals, and I think he had like 13 or 14 points. So he can produce. He's been really great for the Ice Hogs, but yeah, that size, I know it's not the biggest, like it's not what it used to be. Smaller players have succeeded, but usually when you're that size, you have to be, a Patrick Kane or Martin St. Louis. Like a lot of times, still to this day, if you're picking between guys to be bottom 6 guys, you're looking for the bigger guys and the smaller guys.
Yeah, guys that are going to be more physical.
Yeah, like if you know your guy is a 5-goal, 20-point game a season, and you got to pick between a 6'3" guy and a 5'10" guy, you're probably going with the 6'3" guy.
Yeah, Tyler Ennis has had a fine career, but he's not going to keep going in the NHL.
Right, yeah. But I'm happy for Senny. He's had a really great season for the Ice Hogs. A lot of that is because he's been playing with Lukas Reichel. They've formed a really good chemistry. It just appears to me that they're going to play tomorrow and be right back to Rockford. That just seems how it's going to be, especially if Kane is good to go and, Johnson's back. I mean, as
get healthy.
As Richardson said, Reichel's only going to be here if there's a spot in the top 6. There should be a spot in the top 6 for him, regardless of who's playing or not, because then you can really get some balance. If you keep Reichel up here for a few games, let him play with Domi and Kane, then you can put Athanasiou back to that third line with Dickinson and Lafferty. They seem to be very effective. Or you put Kurashev down on a third line. So all of a sudden now you've got maybe 3 lines that, if you squint hard enough, can score a goal, as opposed to maybe 1.5 lines that can do it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after tomorrow. But I'm just happy that we're going to have a game tomorrow with something different to watch and something different to report on.
Something different to watch and a chance at a competitive game. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Definitely. I get the vibe, too, that Reichel will not be here long, and same with Senny, obviously. But this vibe of like, well, there's not really room for him in the top 6. There should always be room for him in the top 6. I think that I like Tyler Johnson. Luke Richardson went out of his way today to talk about how the guy's a winner. He wants to win. He's driven. He's a guy I think he used the term turn the key. You don't have to turn the key to get him started.
Yeah.
He's always got a high motor. That's fine and dandy. He's got 1 point in his last 6 games, right? It's not like he's been like. I think that we can't be having guys, regardless of age or experience, locked into certain roles based on reputation alone. And if Tyler Johnson has to play in a third line, so Lukas Reichel can say, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Right. And I get the big picture, and I know there's a lot more to be developed from Reichel, and we're going to get to that here in a little bit. But I don't know. I just don't think that Athanasiou and Johnson should be just handed top 6 roles because they've got more NHL experience. They're not really producing.
Yeah.
And it's no one is on this team. Let's be honest.
Right.
But there's nothing in Tyler Johnson that tells me, well, I mean, you have to play him in the top 6. He's earned it.
Yeah, I
don't know.
I would be. I'm in the camp too of if Lukas Reichel was in your top 6 this entire season, if he had started the year with them and played in the top 6, I'd be totally fine with that. And even now, if it was like, okay, he's up, he's going to stay with us for a few months or a few weeks or whatever, and you continue to play him in the top 6, I'd be fine with that, because that's the kind of player that he's supposed to be. That's the kind of player he plays off of with his line mates. So that's the role that he needs to be played with. But I think it's. Aside, we talked about it yesterday. Aside from the Blackhawks coming out and being like, when Lukas Reichel's here, he's here for good. It's like, okay, well, you didn't do that.
Yeah,
you're not going to be doing that. So I think getting these small opportunities to play in a top 6 role and play in that kind of style of hockey is good. But like he talked about it today. It's just like you kind of need those times to build some of those, you build off of each shift you take, each little thing that you do right, you build off of that, and that can build your confidence. And he spoke about, having to learn how to be more patient with himself and with his game, going between the AHL and the NHL, especially this season, and, not having to create something every time you're on the ice. Like if you're on the ice for a shift and nothing happens, sometimes that's a good thing. That means you didn't do anything wrong. Like that's completely fine to do. And so that's something that he's learning. But I would wish at this point in his development he could learn some of those things while playing NHL minutes.
Yeah, there's not a ton more for him to do at the AHL level aside from get stronger. So instead of just talking about it, why don't we play what Luke Richardson had to say today after practice? This is about 3.5 minutes or so, give or take. John Dietz had the question, and I think it's on there, but in case it's not, John Dietz says, was it a difficult decision to send Lukas Reichel down to the American Hockey League when the season began? Here's what Luke had to say.
Was it like, no, he needs almost a full year?
Yeah, no, I think it was not an easy decision that we wanted to do it. I think it was just an obvious decision. Like seeing him at the rookie camp was probably my first real experience seeing him at a game. I didn't see him last year, I don't think at all, play against us in Montreal, but he shows some brilliant flashes, but it just doesn't look like he's consistently and physically ready for the NHL and to be a centerman especially. So I think, to start him on a wing here would be a good idea, to play with some NHL players and not be so responsible 200 feet. You just have your little areas on the walls, and you got to be the F3 if you're the last guy in there, or you got to be a good F1 and be hard. And I don't think that's naturally in him. But if he wants to get the puck back in the offensive zone, he's going to have to learn to do that in this league and separate guys that are bigger than him and stronger than him, but he's quicker. He's quicker and he's an intelligent player. He's got to learn how to put that into his game plan in our team philosophy and make it work. And he's a bright guy, so he's got to figure out that quickly if he wants the longer opportunity to do that. But I think he will. I think he's driven. I think he's shown this year that he wants to take a step and be a top player in the American League so that he can come here and last and sustain, not just be a flash in the pan or a one-way type of player. Like in the NHL, you can't really be that unless you're a real special player. And usually those guys are the guys that go up and down the ice, and they're the two-way players.
What have you seen over the years, like the guy who kept up for too long, and the guy's careers just, I don't know if they end, but they just never become a player. I feel like the last regime could have kept Reichel around. How detrimental do you think that would have been for him to stay up here for a whole year, not learn the way he is?
Oh, it's happened for years. Like there's a lot of pressure for you to play your first rounders, and then the organization feels pressure because we used our first round pick on this guy and we're not playing him. But I think there's been lots of good instances that organizations make the guys work their way and earn their way up and have to work on certain parts of their game so they don't falter and really get exposed at this level. And I've seen guys over the years, like if you want to go way back, like Alexander Daig, was the first overall, a lot of pressure and really struggled with it. And there was other guys, I think what was the guy in Atlanta? I was at I forget if it was Bach or something like that, like way back. I can't remember his name even. And that's what happens to somebody. It's a first overall pick, and you don't make it. That's a lot of pressure. So I think even the Yakupov guy in Edmonton, like there's another one, like he wasn't ready to play, like physically or mentally to play an NHL game, and they were under pressure, especially there in the Canadian market, and after I think going to the finals, I think a year or two before that, and forcing a guy that's not in there and now never play in the league again. So I think this is good. It's tough for the player to understand that at the time. They want to play. They just want to play here. They've never been on a team that they haven't made, and they feel like they were cut. But really, this is the same organization. You're not getting
Yeah, he's going back down. I don't think
there's
not much doubt about it. And look, as much as we would like to see him, and as much as it would bring excitement to the season and something else to talk about aside from losses piling up over and over again, his reasoning is sound. Reichel does need to get stronger. He was asked, I think, by Charlie about keeping the weight on.
Ben Pope.
It was Ben Pope. You're right. About keeping the weight on that he put in the offseason. And Reichel kind of said, like, hey, he's had trouble doing that. He does need to get stronger. And Skokes points out, he says, I love Luke Richardson, but that's why you need grinders and shooters around Reichel to fully utilize his skill set. He can't turn him into something he's not. I don't think that's what Luke is saying.
No, he's not trying to turn him into a fourth liner.
Yeah, I think what Luke is saying is he needs to be able to hold his own against guys that are bigger than him. Yeah. Like Patrick Kane is not big, but he can beat a guy to a puck, lift a stick, take it away. He can use his intelligence to do those sort of things, but he also has the physical strength too.
Yeah.
He's not going to Patrick Kane's not going to stiff arm Chris Pronger.
No, but
right?
he's
there's certain
smart enough.
Strong enough and smart enough to position himself correctly.
He's smart enough. He's good enough. He's
people like him.
Yeah, I mean he's shifty enough and smart enough to avoid contact. And I don't know if Reichel has that same ability. If he did, I think he'd be in the NHL. But yeah, I think it's more or less about being able to handle playing those kinds of minutes, playing those kinds of that amount of time in the NHL to physically be able to handle it, because you're not going to avoid every contact. You're not going to avoid every hit and be able to be effective. You're going to have to take some hits to get into a corner or take some physicality to get to the net. Like Reichel will have to be able to handle that. And yeah, I mean if you looked at Lukas Reichel not knowing he's a hockey player and saw him go through a workout, you'd be like, oh, he's probably a tennis player. Like he's long,
wiry,
he's lean, a little wiry, but he definitely has since last season. He's visibly bigger and filled out a little bit more. So he's going in that direction. You just don't want him, and he's not going to, but you don't want him to get too big to where you take away from the speed of his game or anything like that. So there's a line to walk with adding pounds and adding strength.
Luke Richardson is big on one-on-one battles.
Yeah.
And how many times have we heard him this season? You got to win those one-on-one battles. We didn't win the one-on-one battles. Mm-hmm. That's how we gave up this goal and that goal. That's what he means about being stronger. He doesn't want Lukas Reichel to turn into Reese Johnson. But he wants Lukas Reichel to, if there's a board battle, to win a few of those every once in a while.
Yeah.
Or to go get a puck and keep it in the zone. So now it's extended offensive time, so now he can use his skill set. You still have to be able to do some of those things, the less glamorous parts of the game. Even when you're highly skilled, you still have to be able to do some of those. And while he's not as dynamic as Patrick Kane can get away with doing some of those things because he's playing most of his career on a different level than everybody on the ice. Lukas Reichel's not that player.
He's not that level of prospect.
And he never will be.
Right.
He's not going to be on that level. So he's got to figure out ways to earn an advantage, because when he was playing in Germany and when he was playing in the AHL, his talent gives him that advantage. That is not a factor in the NHL. Everybody is just as talented, if not more talented, than Lukas Reichel. So now he has to find other ways to earn that advantage on the ice, and that's what he's talking about. And he's not. The organization doesn't think he's there yet.
Yeah,
and I don't necessarily disagree with them.
It's good patience by the organization, and it has to be frustrating for Davidson and Richardson and everybody. As the losses pile up and say, we got this really highly skilled kid, one of the most skilled players in our organization, just sitting there, and it's really tempting to do that, but it's clear that they don't think he's ready yet. And I'm fine with it. And your point about him playing in Germany is really good, Greg, because Luke said it today. Like, a lot of these guys, they've all been the best player on their team. They're not used to not making the team, so to speak.
Yeah.
Germany, he is dominating the hell out of Germany.
Right.
Like Patrick Kane's playing in for the London Knights against better competition. Jonathan Toews is playing college hockey. It goes on and on. Reichel comes from Germany, where the talent pool is much, much smaller than it is in North America. It's competitive, but it's nowhere near, right? So that jump for him is even bigger than your standard Canadian-American, even a Swede or a Finn right? It's a bigger jump from level to level for Reichel, so it's a bigger adjustment for him. So I don't know. He seems to understand it. Reichel does. You could tell. I don't want to say. I think frustrated is the wrong word, but maybe disappointed that he's not here full time yet. But look, I love the way Richardson explained why. It is it's like we talked about with Kyle Davidson last night. Like, we don't know if the plan's going to work, but the plan is sound and it makes sense. Whether or not it pays off, we'll see. But I think they're taking the safe route, the smart route with Lukas Reichel, and it's what they should be doing.
Yeah, it's tough to balance, wanting him to be here and understanding why he's not. But I think there's one thing about Kyle Davidson is that he definitely is banking on the patience of these of these prospects and taking their time. I mean, the little nuances of the game, I think, are definitely important to sharpen before jumping right into the NHL for Reichel. But I mean, I just watch him at the AHL level, and he looks, he plays with a confidence. You watch him play in Ice Hogs games, and he looks like a different player because he's up there, top line, go-to guy, one of the big producers for that team, and I think he just needs an opportunity at the NHL level to be told, like, hey, go. I know we talked about this yesterday. Go do your thing and go out there and play with some confidence to not think that if you make a mistake you're going to be sent right back down, or if you make a mistake you're going to be benched. Like, go out there and start to fine tune your game at the NHL level. And he can't do it in 12 hours in the NHL. Like, what is he going to get out of that? Nothing. 1 game, 2 games, whatever it is. Like, he needs to eventually have a time where it's, a 2-week, whole month, 2-month stretch where he's playing consistently, and then you can kind of evaluate where is he at the NHL level. Because at the AHL level, from times that I'm watching him with the Ice Hogs, from what I see, like, I see a guy that's like, he's good. He's done. He's capped out what he can do at the AHL level, and maybe I'm seeing something different or overlooking some things. But to me, I just see a guy who's too good for the AHL and is ready to, find out what he can do at the NHL level.
Yeah, I think that stretch where he's going to get that NHL time for an extended period will come starting March 4th.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably be later this season.
He'll get the last 6 weeks of the regular season to be a Blackhawk, and then he'll go back to Rockford for the Calder Cup run.
Yeah. And
we'll have a better idea. We won't be as in the dark as we are now. If he can play from March 3rd to the end of the season, that's roughly 20 games. If he could play all 20 of those games in the top 6, I think we'll have some questions, and maybe some new questions will arise, but we'll probably feel a little bit better because you give him 20 games in a row in the NHL playing a top 6, the points will come.
Yep.
They'll get there.
Depending on who he plays in that stretch, who he plays with during that stretch of time. But yeah, I get your point.
He'll get on the board and he'll get some confidence, and then he can go to the AHL, go to the Calder Cup, hopefully a very deep run, maybe a Calder Cup at the end of the rainbow there. They definitely have the roster that is typical of Calder Cup champions, a lot of AHL vets. And then next year he comes in saying, hey, knowing he can do it at the NHL level. Hey, I played 21 games and I had 11 points or whatever it was. I finally got my first NHL goal. I think when he finally gets that first one, it's going to pop for him where he's like, okay, I've known I can do it, but now I've done it. Let's do it again. Mm-hmm. And then he can go in the next training camp. He can go in his off season, get bigger, get stronger, work on those little nuances that the organization wants him to do. And then he'll have that NHL confidence at the start of training camp next year, and then it's off to the races.
Well, in fairness too to Reichel, he can't get those game moments of experience without being in an NHL game. Like, you could say, well, imagine a really fast guy is coming to, at some point you've got to be in the NHL to overcome NHL challenges. And I think you're right that March 4th after the trade deadline, he'll find his way here, finish regular season, then head to Rockford, which is what they should do. But you can't practice for the NHL in the AHL,
You
right? You can physically get bigger and stronger and compete, but in terms of overcoming the challenges that Luke Richardson and everybody wants him to overcome, until he's here, he's not going to be able to do that. Yeah. So it's one thing to go up against, the other team's Brett Seney, who's a really nice AHL player, but that's not Jonathan Taves.
Right.
That's not Brad Marchand. That's not whoever, right? So it's a tough position to be in, and he's got to get those challenges to overcome those challenges, is what I'm trying to say.
You need job experience to gain job experience.
That's correct.
So it's a loophole we've all been in.
Right. Well, look, you can't go host a sports talk show without hosting a sports talk show.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, Craig Morgan is standing by, our friend from PHNX. He's going to join us in a second, but first, we want to tell you about our friends at Green Ridge Farm. They're a Chicago local meat and cheese company offering you a better all-natural option. They're the makers of all-natural deli meats, sausages, and their famous meat sticks, perfect for tailgating, happy hour, and school lunches. They're all natural, hardwood smoked for 8 hours, and they've got 16 grams of protein per stick. If you work out for some reason, it's a perfect post-workout snack. They come in chicken, Black Forest beef, and flavors like jalapeno cheddar and spicy chili. They're made from recipes generations in the making. They're all natural and deliver a fresh and flavorful alternative at snack time. You can always find them in the refrigerated section at Costco, Sam's Club, the Jewels, the Pete's, wherever you shop. Look for it in your Chicagoland grocery store. And right now, when you order any 3 meat products at greenridgefarm.com and include a pack of meat sticks in your cart, those meat sticks will be free simply by using the code CHGO at checkout. Green Ridge Farm, simply natural meat.
Hey, speaking of awesome companies that start with the letter G, G's a good letter. I'm a big fan of the letter G and things that start with the letter G. Go check out Game Time,
all right,
and you'll save lots of money on your tickets to whatever you want to go to. You want to go to a sporting event? Those are fun. Concerts are cool. Broadway-type shows, they got tickets for everything. If you ever dreamed of sitting in a seat you never thought you could, do you like those right-on-the-glass seats? You want to sit behind the penalty box so you can yell things at opposing players? Personally, I'm a big fan of the 200 level. That's where you get the best view. No matter where you want to sit, the biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy by heading over to Game Time. You will not find a better deal on Blackhawks tickets this season. They've got a ton of great deals. I'm on the site right now. If you want to go to see tomorrow's huge tilt with the Arizona Coyotes, $30 gets you in the door. Look at this. Sunday, Calgary Flames, our old buddy Daryl Sutter, $15 tickets. $15 tickets next Thursday against the reigning champ Colorado Avalanche. $13 if you want to go see the Buffalo Sabres and future Hart Trophy winner Tage Thompson. It's all there for you at Game Time. It's created by the fans for the fans. They guarantee the lowest price. And if you love CHGO, and you wouldn't be here if you didn't, then you'll love Game Time too. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Scroll down, hit that gigantic thumbs up, please. And then right below that, you'll see the link for Game Time. Click that anytime you want to buy tickets. And if you're listening on one of our audio-only outlets, that link is in the description as well. So use Game Time next time you want to buy tickets for any event, but especially those Blackhawks tickets. Save money and help us out.
All right, joining us now is our friend from PHNX. It is Craig Morgan. Follow him on Twitter at Craig Smorgan or Craig's Morgan, whichever one you prefer. Craig, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate it.
I gotta tell you, I feel right at home after listening to Jay say sausage. I want to get down to the Jewel and get my Heinemann's coffee cake, and I'll be all good. Be all good.
Oh man,
Jewels.
I could use one of those right now.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten in 25 minutes.
It's been a while, yeah.
Well, game 1 of the Bedard Bowl is tomorrow, and you guys are kind of screwing us up a little bit, Craig. What's going on? What's up with the Coyotes? They're better than expected.
Yeah, they're screwing themselves up, which is what the Coyotes often do, as you guys know. The Blackhawks are doing this right. They are tanking right. I got to ask you, I have a question right off the hop here. Are they even trying? Are the Blackhawks even trying?
They are ready to work,
yeah,
all right?
That's about all they do is try.
I said this last night that Kyle Davidson should win an award for constructing this roster, because he's made it full of guys that look like they're trying to win but have no chance in hell to actually win. They try really hard. They just can't get it done. Great job building this roster.
Yeah, and on the flip side, we've got the Coyotes, who have the 8th best winning percentage on home ice. They're 7-3-2 at the mullet, and that's the big reason why they're sitting in the 5th worst spot in the NHL instead of right down there with the Blackhawks and the Jackets. And again, this season was all about this. This whole rebuild for the last couple seasons was about this draft in particular and getting a franchise center, and now it looks like they are going to reduce their odds significantly by the way they're playing on home ice.
I looked at the standings, and they're actually the same amount of points away from the last wild card spot as they are from the Blackhawks. It's like the worst nightmare scenario where you're like, what's the vibe with the fans, the Coyote fans? I know every time the Blackhawks win a game, everybody freaks out and is like, oh my God, they're too good. They're too good. How dare they win a game? Has that been kind of the same vibe there with the PHNX fans, or is it kind of like, we don't mind that much?
It's really split. They're the people that understand that you don't win Stanley Cups without a franchise center. Then the other people who are just like, I just want to see wins right now. And I get both perspectives, but as someone who's covered this team for 2 decades, what do you want? You want to spin your wheels for another decade? That's what's going to happen. This franchise has not had a true number 1 center since your guy Jeremy Roenick left town. Really, it's been that long. It's been more than 2 decades since they've had a legitimate number 1 center, and that as much as anything, and there are a lot of things to talk about with the Coyotes, but in terms of on-ice success, you start right there.
Oh, you guys could have had Dylan Strome. I mean, you missed out on that.
Buddy.
Well, so we're watching Logan Cooley light it up for Team USA. I know he's a center there. Does he project as a center for the Coyotes, and could he possibly be that franchise center?
It could be. Listen, I don't want to discount what Logan Cooley's been doing. He's obviously been doing some really good things both on the college stage and at the World Juniors. But he's not Connor Bedard. You guys have seen what Connor Bedard, those guys come along very seldom. And I'm not saying that the Coyotes would win. That's the sweepstakes for Connor Bedard. Even if they had the worst record, it's still only, an 18.5% chance of getting that top pick. Just to remind you guys, by the way, I know you've been talking a lot about having Connor Bedard as a Blackhawk. It's not a guaranteed. But, I think when it's Chicago in that position, they probably add 10 percentage points to make sure that they get it. When it's the Coyotes, they probably go the other direction, because the Coyotes somehow in 26 years in the desert have not had a number 1 overall pick or a number 2 overall pick. Tell me how that happens. I don't get it.
I don't know. But if you listen to other people, they're gonna get it rigged for the Coyotes.
Yeah. See, it's Craig. It's all which conspiracy you buy into.
That's fair.
Is it the NHL wants to help out the Blackhawks, which makes sense. Our arena holds more than 5,000 people, so they might want to get the next generational star to play in front of a big market with a lot of fans. But we all know Gary Bettman is very just ingrained in making this Phoenix Coyotes thing work, Arizona Coyotes thing work, and nothing would help that more than Connor Bedard. So it's all which conspiracy theory you buy into. I just, it's been really interesting because after every game, we go to tankathon.com and we spin the wheel. We simulate the draft lottery and see how things end up. And the Hawks have not been getting the number 1 pick very often. So it like you said, it's not a sure thing. But watching the Coyotes, it kind of feels like they're right now where the Hawks might be next year or the year after, where some of the important young players have sort of made their transition to the team and are starting to contribute, whereas the Hawks right now, you look up and down the roster and the only guys you can really project into the future are Seth Jones, because he's got an unmovable contract, and maybe Philip Kurashev, maybe Isaac Phillips. That's really it. In terms of the Coyotes, where are you guys at in terms of prospects that will be part of the next great team?
Well, I mean, it's really the middle core that's getting it done here, and more than anyone, Karel Vejmelka. He's the biggest reason why they have more points than they should right now. You've looked at, I know the traditional stats like save percentage and goals against average, he doesn't look so great, but if you look at goals saved above expected, I think he's 4th in the league right now, and that's the biggest reason. But, some of those middle core guys have taken major steps forward. Clayton Keller's a point-per-game player. Mm-hmm. Your buddy Nick Schmaltz is producing again now that he's in the lineup. Jacob Chikrin has been incredible since he came back into the lineup from wrist surgery. Lawson Krause is tied for the team lead in goals. So those guys in the middle core are the ones that are really pushing it. You know, Dylan Gunther didn't really have that much of an impact in the few games he played before he went to World Juniors in very sheltered minutes, too. The other part of this is Bill Armstrong can't help himself but bring in guys with character. They've got a lot of character guys like Nick Bjugstad in this locker room that are making this somehow fun for these guys to go play in a 5,000-seat arena with a team that at the beginning of the season, most analysts said was one of the worst rosters ever constructed in NHL history. Here they are winning like crazy on home ice and doing, exceeding expectations without a doubt.
What is the atmosphere like since the Coyotes have been home? I know you had about 20 games, something like that, to start the season on the road. What's the atmosphere been like now that there's been some home games and some success at home?
Well, it's a lot of fun. It really is. It's a bizarre feeling for an NHL game because everything's right on top of the ice. The players have talked about this when they come in, the visiting players. It's just a different feel. You don't have that depth. I don't know, like I equate it to, I remember covering the NBA when the Spurs played in the Dome, and shooters would talk about how crazy it was playing in this massive place. Well, this is the reverse. It just feels like everything's right on top of you. You don't have a chance to adapt to it in one morning skate before the game. So I think it's having an effect. It's a really fast surface, too. I'm sure you guys have seen the comments from a lot of the players saying this may be the best ice in the NHL, which is just insane to think about. It's a really fast surface. So it's really giving the Coyotes a home ice advantage right now. They've been selling out the games. They've been really good crowds. What I want to see is, okay, what happens in game 30 at home? What happens in season 2 and season 3 when some of that novelty is worn off? I don't know what to say about that at this point, but right now they're definitely getting a home ice advantage at the Mullet.
Well, you mentioned the depth, and I want to be clear. Like, are you talking about the depth perception?
Yeah.
Like in terms of being on the ice and being able to tell where you are, how far away the goalie is. That's something I didn't even consider.
Yeah. A couple players have talked about it.
That's got to be a huge adjustment.
Yeah, it is. It's just a different feel than any, everybody says, well, the ice is the same. It's the same dimensions. But when you go into that arena, it just feels different. And I do, players have actually said that it's an adjustment stepping onto that ice and playing in that arena.
Very interesting. Well, nice to see. Craig, you brought some of your diehard PHNX fans over here in the chat. We got Karen and Christina and a few others. Welcome.
Smash that like button.
We're not as mean as some people say we are. We are nice guys. But Christina brings up said that most games are a lot of fun to watch, even when they lose. And I just want to say I'm jealous of that because Blackhawk games are not fun. It's the same freaking 60 minutes of hockey night in and night out. They follow the script well, and so. I think it'd be really cool to head out there and cover a game. We did a road trip to South Bend and covered Michigan Notre Dame hockey game, and we were sitting there going this is probably just a wee bit smaller than where the Coyotes are playing. I'm sitting there going, my God, to see an NHL game at something like this would be quite the experience.
Yeah, it would definitely be, like you said, everything right on top of the ice would feel more intimate as a fan watching the game, and I'm sure as a player, you don't have the vast 20,000 seat arena at the United Center where fans can feel away far away from you, or you don't even think about it when you're on the ice. But when you're there and everything's one level right on top of you, it's got to be a little bit more of a pressure as a player to kind of just feel that a little bit more intensely.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you the flip side of it. You guys mentioned the atmosphere at the UC right now. Is this pre 2008, 2009?
No.
Is it that level or okay?
It's been surprising. They've actually had some good crowds over the holiday break. The New Year's Day game against the Sharks, another friend of ours in the tank standings, it was the second largest crowd, only behind the Marian Hossa retirement night of the season. They've had much better crowds than I expected, and people are into the game. Now we'll see once the college kids go back to school here in a couple of days and everything, and we get into the dog days of February. I'm sure it's going to take a beating,
and post-trade deadline.
Yeah, woof. I don't even want to think about that roster, but it's probably going to tail off here. But I would render a guess that the Blackhawks brass is very happy with the crowds they've had this year. I think they've been averaging 16, 17 still a game.
About 16,
so, even that the pre-Christmas game against Columbus, it was like -4 degrees outside, and they still had 15,000 sitting there. I couldn't believe it. I was expecting to go to that game, and it was going to be like a COVID season game. There'd be nobody there, but they were there.
Yeah.
They were selling beer.
Which helps.
Yeah, is there fallout then from all the things that have happened recently between the Kyle Beach scandal, Eddie Olczyk being cut loose, the fact that
People
they're
were
doing this?
mad about it for a little. They were mad
ahead.
about it for a little while, but as you know, you've been around sports long enough. People move on. They shout. They get something else to get mad about. I think a lot of that has. There, you still get the people that bring it up all the time, but for the most part, people have moved on. They're like the Kyle Beach thing. Now there's not that much chatter about it. You do have a large group of fans that are like have thrown in the towel. You had a group of fans that after the whole Patrick Kane incident in 2015 were done, and the way that was handled, moved on. So, but for the most part, I think that's more of a narrative outside of Chicago than inside of Chicago. I think a lot of people, the diehard fans, are kind of excited about what's happening because it's long overdue. I think they're more excited to have a team that, it's the worst team in hockey right now, but it's set up because that's the first step of a well thought out vision into the future, which is something that this franchise hasn't had in a decade.
Yeah.
Yep. I think, too, with the Kyle Beach scandal is the people who were primarily involved in that cover-up are no longer with the organization. From the former GM, whose name we can't say or had to throw $1 in the jar, to Joel Quenneville, to John McDonough, to Jay, to all the people in power at that time are no longer with the organization, aside from Rocky Wirtz. But Rocky is also, despite the denials by his son Danny and Jamie Faulkner, he's taken a back seat in terms of the day-to-day. He's not the front man anymore. You don't really see him at games anymore. Danny Wirtz is a guy doing what seems like the heavy lifting at this point. So I think a lot of people have kind of said, okay, had those guys remained, I think the feelings would be a little bit different. But because it seems like the proper people were let go, that people have kind of been able to move on from it. So, I don't know. But like Greg said, score a goal and make me cheer, and I'll forget all about it,
Yeah, we don't. I mean, I guess there's not enough of a past for the Coyotes fans to rely on to move past things that quickly. There just hasn't been a lot of success in the past of this franchise. You've got 3 Stanley Cups. Maybe some people out there will argue they were all tainted because of what happened, but they won 3 cups. The Coyotes have been to the Western Conference Final once in their entire history, and that was the only year that they won actual playoff series. They won the bubble that one year. That's it. That's all we got to hang our hats on out here.
Well, we've been following from a distance about the new arena in Arizona. What is the latest on that? Like, are things going well? Are the Coyotes happy with the way these conversations have gone, and are they confident that they're going to get built what they want built?
Yeah, it's to the final stage now. The City Council, Tempe City Council, voted 7-0 on all 3 measures of the proposal, so they're pushing it to referendum on May 16th. Tempe voters will decide the fate of the arena. It does not sound like there are that many opponents left. The Sky Harbor International Airport has backed off, so it doesn't sound like they're going to oppose this anymore. The Goldwater Institute, which has been a thorn in the Coyote side in the past, isn't going to oppose it. So it's really down to maybe some citizens groups, some NIMBYs, of course, and then this union case. The acronym is CASE, but they represent hospitality workers. They want their own workers, but it doesn't sound like the opposition has that strong of a case. And I know that 2 internal polls had been conducted previously of Tempe residents and found that more than 60% of them supported the project. So at this point, if I had to bet on it, I'd say, it's going to happen. It's going to pass on May 16th. And then, they're going to have to do the cleanup of the actual dump site, which is going to take 6 to 8 months, and then probably like a 2-year construction timeline. So you're looking at, they're definitely going to be in Mullet for 2 more seasons, and maybe a piece of that season after that, but they may be able to move in at some point during the season, like the Islanders did last year, and like the Coyotes did in Glendale back in 2003 when they moved in December.
Well, that's good. That's good. I mean, and it's, we'll crack our 5,000-seat arena jokes for, I guess, two more seasons then. But it's really exciting to see the new facility and the renderings and everything. for the Coyotes to play in. So when you look at the future of the team, and we've had some hypotheticals thrown at us with the draft and everything. If it's not Connor Bedard, if it's not Adam Fantilli, for the Coyotes' outlook, where do you think the organization then looks if they get, say, the third or fourth pick? Do they roll the dice on a guy like Matvei Michkov, who is under a KHL contract, which causes some complications, but would also then kind of line up with, hey, here's our new arena and our new rookie? Like, do you think that that's something that the Coyotes would be built for with this draft class?
I think if they got the number 3 pick, they'd be much more likely to go after Leo Carlsson. They're looking for a big center, and Bill Armstrong likes size, period. There's already some small guys, that are part of the future in this. If you look at Logan Cooley, I'm not saying he's small, but he's not a big guy. Matthias Michelli, some of the other players, Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, these aren't big guys, so they're going to need some size in their lineup anyway. And I know that they're pretty high on Leo Carlsson as well. They figure they think he's right up in that tier. So while Michkov is an exciting player, as you mentioned, there's some risks, and he's not the biggest guy in the world. I think they're looking more at premium positions. And this draft, if you talk to analysts, they really believe it's deep in centers more than anything else. It's not as great on defense or in goal. So that's probably the area that they would go. But if they fall beyond 3, I don't know, guys. I mean, first off, what was this all for if they don't get a top 3 pick in this draft? But we'll see. I mean, they have one thing that they have done since Bill Armstrong took over as a former scout, as 20-year scout and the director of amateur scouting for the Blues. They have really beefed up this scouting staff. I can say with confidence that this is the most complete and most talented scouting staff that they've ever had in the Coyotes history. So that plays in their favor. It's still a crapshoot, of course, to a certain extent when you're drafting 17 and 18-year-old kids, but this is a really good scouting staff. So they'll find someone.
Should we throw our hypothetical at Craig? Would you sacrifice the opportunity at number 1 to guarantee number 2?
Wow. So sacrifice, what are my odds for number 1?
See, that's a good question. Because if you're the Hawks right now, it's 18.4.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, that changes it. That changes the equation.
Yeah, because you can't drop past 3 if you're there, right? So that guarantees you one of those 3 guys. But if it's lower than that and I can get Adam Fantilli a certainty, yeah, I'd probably take Adam Fantilli if the odds are low of getting number 1, because again, big center with a lot of talent.
Yeah, I mean, we love looking at the future because that's all we got right now. Because
literally all
the president is so depressing. But
we get that a lot around here, guys.
Yeah, the NHL is starting to rev up the All-Star chatter, and they confirmed that every team's getting an All-Star game representative. So, who's the guy heading from the desert over to southern Florida here? Is it Clayton Keller, the point per game, or maybe the better question is who's going to get it and who should get it?
Yeah, I think Clayton Keller will probably be the guy. When you look at the breakdown of these rosters, and this is part of what I hate about it, it's going to be 7 forwards, 2D, or it's going to be, in some cases, you get 1 defenseman. So I think it hurts defensemen. I don't think the selection process is fair. I think it should be 6-3 when they divide this, and it should be a lock. So 3 defensemen from each division make it, but that's not the case. I think Clayton Keller is going to be the guy. If I had to vote for someone right now off of the Coyotes, it would be Karel Vejmelka. And you look at the numbers, again, you look at the traditional stats and say, well, it's not that impressive. But again, goals saved above expected. And the reason the Coyotes are 5th worst instead of dead last, it's Karel Vejmelka, without a doubt. He'd be the guy. He's been the team MVP thus far.
Yeah.
So who's the guy that the fans are going to rally around? We got a fan vote now.
The Twitter vote, yeah.
Who's the Coyotes version of John Scott from a few years ago? Like, is Zach Cassian going?
No, it would be one of the guys that we're talking about. But there are a couple other guys that are really popular too as potential choices. Even though he's requested a trade, Jacob Chychrun has just been so good recently. Like now Coyotes fans are begging him to stay. He'd be one guy I'd think about. And the other guy is Lawson Krause, who's not going to get it. But he's the leading scorer, and he's the guy that everybody around here thinks should be the next captain of the team. And I can see that, actually. I think he fits in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you know what? I want to ask you about Chychrun and the fact that he has requested a trade and is still with the team. How has that dynamic been? I think as fans and analysts, we look at this as some sort of ever-present like cloud hanging over the organization. What in your covering of the Coyotes? How have things been since that request was made?
He's actually been really good in the room, and Bill Armstrong was talking about this, what a professional he's been about this whole thing. He's been positive. He's having fun. You can see he's having fun with his teammates. So he's not a distraction or a downer in any way in that dressing room, which is good. I mean, honestly, that helps his trade value as well. If you start hearing whispers that he's been, a moper the whole time that he's been playing here, that's probably not going to help his stock. But he's handled it like a professional, and again, he's doing it on the ice as well. Ever since Andre Tourigny put him and Shane Gostisbehere together, they've been dynamic. I think since Chick came back in the lineup, those two guys have more points as a pairing than any defensive pair in the league. So they're playing at a really high level right now. It's just weird because a season ago, Jacob Chychrun was the untouchable. He was the guy you were certain they were building this franchise around. But then the Coyotes approach him and say, hey, we're going to strip this thing down. It's going to be a rough few years. Do you want to be a part of it? And Jacob starts thinking about it and says, you know what? No, I don't want to spend the prime of my career during a rebuild. It's not a lot of fun. So they've been working to make that trade. I think everybody knows by now the ask is 2 first-round picks and then probably either a second or another prospect. We'll see if Bill Armstrong gets it. He hasn't budged off that price. And a lot of people think he's crazy, but I heard the same things with a couple other deals that he made. Everybody said he'd never get a first-round pick for Darcy Kemper, and he did. So with the way Chick's playing, he's only helping himself. And usually what drives these things, guys, it's desperation. Team gets into a situation where it needs that player, or it's the actual deadline when you feel the pressure because you're trying to get into cup contention or playoff contention, and other teams are going after him as well. That's usually when the trigger point occurs.
So
those are Brendan Hagel prices.
Yeah, well, wow. just for our viewers and listeners who are salivating, saying, "Well, Patrick Kane's much better than Jacob Chychrun." Chychrun is 24. He's got this year and 2 more at 4.6. So
exactly.
You're basically trading for his prime with years left on the deal. So Chychrun's going to get more than Kane simply because of the guarantee. So that's why Arizona can ask that much for Chychrun. They might not get it, but if a bigger return comes for him than Kane, remember, it's not like he's better than him, so he should get more. You got to look at the big picture of the deal. And speaking of trades, we look up and down this Hawks roster, and we're saying Taves, Kane, Domi, Athanasiou, maybe Connor Murphy, maybe Jake McCabe, on and on and on. Who are some of the veteran guys that you could see the Coyotes moving out ahead of the deadline here to stock up on assets?
Well, in addition to Chychrun, Shane Gostisbehere is the other guy that I think will probably have some real value at the deadline. I just wrote about him today, actually, because he's going back to Philly to play his 500th game against the team that drafted him. I mean, that's cool. The Coyotes literally gave Philadelphia nothing in that trade, literally. Philadelphia paid the Coyotes to take Gostisbehere's cap hit, and they got a second-round pick and another pick as well. Gostisbehere had 51 points last year for a team with the fewest goals in the NHL. He's on pace for about 60 this season. He's been an elite offensive producer. He can really run a power play. Somebody's going to be looking for Shane Gostisbehere at the deadline, and they're going to get more assets there. Aside from him, some lesser guys that might still have some interest in it. The Coyotes will weigh this. Is it worth moving this guy on? Because they got 2 real character guys that mean a lot in the room, but they're probably not going to get a great haul in Nick Bjugstad and Chicago native Christian Fischer. Those are 2 guys that I could see be moving. The dark horse here is Karel Vejmelka. How badly do you want it? How badly do you want to tank? And what can you get for Karel Vejmelka? He doesn't have that large a body of evidence, so I don't know if the return would be worth, taking him out of this lineup and really hurting morale by removing a goaltender who's played above and beyond. But if somebody knocks their socks off with an offer for Karel Vejmelka, I could see that happening as well.
All right, Craig, before we let you go, and we've got some of your PHNX fans in here, we want to give them the opportunity to take advantage of the shirt design we have for a legendary Arizona Coyote. Number 81 was raised to the United Center rafters, and we all remember him from his time with the Coyotes and how memorable those years were. So if you're looking to commemorate the career of number 81, you can go to chgolocker.com. Get that design for Coyotes legend, name we can't say until the ad's over. But you know who we're talking about. Good old MH himself, who was sitting just over there a couple weeks ago, and his aura is still in the room. Still here. So if
not his button.
Not his button. If the PHNX fans want to commemorate that wonderful time that he had in Phoenix, grab it at chgolocker.com. Anything you want to add? You got a prediction for tomorrow?
Well, at first I want to say that just to put my fan on for a moment here. Marian Hossa is my favorite Blackhawk of all time, so I'll say the name.
All right,
and by the way, you can walk through the pantheon of the new arena at Mullet, and you can see all of those Coyotes. Marian Hossa is situated right next to Pavel Datsyuk and Chris Pronger and Dave Boland. Some other great Coyotes of the past. But
that was a hell of a cup run when those guys all played together.
Can we interest you in a gently used Jonathan Taves?
They need a defenseman really badly to complete the line. So if you got somebody,
give you back Connor Murphy.
Yeah.
Doesn't really rise to the same
Brent
level.
Seaber's contract still got a year in it. Maybe Lightning can shift that over.
There you go. There you go. As far as predictions, who's starting in goal for the Blackhawks?
It doesn't matter.
It really does. It doesn't.
No, actually,
that's the secret
Alex
sauce
Stalock,
right there.
We were talking about the guy that we're going to stump for to make an all-star. We think it might be Alex Stalock, who's been really, really good for the Hawks when healthy. And he is fun to watch. He's always leaving the crease. He's always chirping and yapping at people. So hopefully it's Stalock. We're not sure quite yet who it'll be, but if it's Peter Mrazek, I would bet Coyotes.
All right, but Connor Ingram's going to be in goal for the Coyotes. So if it's Peter Mrazek, I am saying bet the over, guys. Bet the over.
Yeah.
I like that.
That'll be fun.
All right, that's Craig Morgan from PHNX Coyotes. Thanks, Craig. We appreciate it, especially on short notice. And let's do one of our big crossover shows ahead of the next time these two juggernauts meet.
Absolutely. You guys got to get out to the Mullet.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Yeah.
We've got the same boss. You can send him a message.
Right. Yeah,
all right,
absolutely. Guys. Take care, man.
Thanks,
Thank
Craig.
you.
Take
That's
care.
Craig Morgan from PHNX Coyotes. Make sure you're following him on Twitter at Craig S. Morgan. And, follow everybody there at PHNX. They do great stuff just like we do here. I love having our little crossover guest visits with our PHNX and DNVR counterparts because just adds a different element to the show, and our viewers seem to really love it.
Fun.
And and joking aside, it's always cool to see the PHNX fans come in and check in on our interviews. So thank you all for coming in and checking us out. We appreciate it. And make sure you smash that like button for us on the way out. We'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And if you want to bet the over on tomorrow's Blackhawks Coyotes game, very easy to do at DraftKings. Hockey fans, light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Why not bet that over and Lukas Reichel to score his first NHL goal?
Why not?
Probably get a pretty big payout on a low investment on that trade. So check it out at DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code CHGO. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code CHGO. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
And we are also brought to you by Chi-Town Custom Cornhole, the #1 provider of cornhole games for the Chicagoland and Illinois areas since 2007. Their signature box-style designs can be digitally printed, covered in vinyl, and painted to your liking. They come with built-in drink holders, which you got to appreciate and get good use out of when you're playing cornhole. They're right there in the back of the boards. They also have the LED lights around the hole that light it up so you can play late into the evening. And the exterior handles for easy carrying, because these are solid, sturdy, handcrafted cornhole boards. They are not light and flimsy like the ones you get at the outlet stores. Not outlet stores. Big box stores. No, these are sturdy, handcrafted cornhole boards. Veteran owned and operated is Chi-Town Custom Cornhole, so you got to love that. They are also able to ship their cornhole boards anywhere while also offering local pickups. So if you want to send them across country, you can. If you want to drive over there and pick them up yourself, you can do that as well. They specialize in corporate designs for your company's next marketing or social event. They make great wedding gifts, birthday gifts, holiday gifts. If you're really late on your holiday gifts, you can try and make up for it with a set of
holiday.
Valentine's Day is right around the corner.
Yeah, Valentine's Day.
Nothing like a good old cornhole for Valentine's Day.
I was really trying to get through this one without cracking up.
Group, pal.
Anyways, get them for your favorite tailgaters and barbecuers in your life. Go check out their website, ChiTownCornhole.com. Make sure you're following them on Instagram as well at Chi-Town Custom Cornhole Boards so you can see all of their designs and their great work and order yourself some boards.
All right, we're going to wrap things up. Hey, hockey fans, Sweden and the U.S. are tied at 5 in the third period.
Oh,
So you're going to want to turn that game on NHL Network right now. Leo Carlson, I'm looking here.
He's got at least 2.
He's got 2 points.
How's Sternborg?
I only see one. I only see 1 point on the board for him. They might have changed the goal at one point.
Okay.
I don't see any points for Sternbjorg. What we know is out there giving his all.
Yeah, he
He's a Blackhawk, and that's what they do.
saw him in a couple scrums early on in the game when we were watching it at lunch.
Yep.
Once it got on the right TV.
The guy's like, yeah, we don't have NHL Network, and we went
Right
there.
I was staring right at it.
You're literally looking right at it, dude. Put it on the other TV.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. We always appreciate it. Make sure you smash that like button on the way out. We're back tomorrow night after Hawks and Coyotes. Should be a fun one. This is a game I've been looking forward to for a while.
It should actually legitimately be a fun game.
We've got Reichel. We've got Senny. Hopefully Patrick Kane is back in the lineup. This will be a fun one. So join us tomorrow night after Hawks and Coyotes. Thanks to Sarah for running the show today. We appreciate it.
Go Canada.
We are CHGO Blackhawks. That was weird. I don't know why I said it that way. Bye.
Career. Let me just know his career, just because too. Like, he is from California.